Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring. Thanks for joining us for episode 2 of Botanical Trails. Today, my guest is Sean Pagori. Sean, thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Brian. Always love a good gin or two.
Great. Well, I was trying to think of something special we could do. So for the episode with you today, I thought I would tap into something you and I both have in common, which is being Italian. So we are going to try a couple of Italian gins today.
I like the sound of that.
And you were just in Italy spring? Yeah.
Yeah, this summer it was my second time going, which the first time I went, I was in high school, so I wasn't told enough or did not have enough money to pay for any booze or any fun excursions. But this year going back, albeit the weather was super, super hot. I mean, it was like 100 plus degrees every day, but I don't remember how amazing the food was and how just...
And what parts of Italy were you in?
Yeah, it's a good point. We actually went with my immediate family, and there was the 6 of us, and we went across probably 4 different towns. We actually flew into, oh my gosh, where'd we flow into? Actually, we started in Rome, and then we took a train, which I've never really taken trains before, especially across, 4 or 5 hour time periods, and talk about how beautiful and peaceful it was. But we went to Cinque Terre, Rome, and
did you go to Florence?
Florence, yes.
Okay.
So just 3, actually.
Yeah. So actually, so I have also had a chance to go to Italy a couple times. My first 2 times I was in Lucca, which is in Tuscany, near Pisa.
Isn't Lucca really close to Cinque Terre?
It's not too far. So the second time I went there, I did end up out in one of the towns in Cinque Terre, which was nice. And then the third time I went, took my mom to Rome, and we made a day trip up to Florence, and so that was a fun trip as well. So the 2 gins that we are trying today are actually both from northern Italy. So the first one that we are doing today is from Malfy Gin. They make 4 different gins, kind of like a regular gin. They make a gin with lemon. They make one that comes with like orange and blood orange. And then they do their gin rosa, which is with grapefruit.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yep. But today we are doing the Malfy lemon. And you may have had this before. This is one of my all-time favorite drinks in the spring or summer, actually, which is sort of funny that we're doing this in the dead of winter. But this is on a warm spring or summer night. I make this drink. It is the Malfy lemon gin, along with, I use San Pellegrino, their citrus tonic. And then I usually put in a little squeeze of lemon. I followed the recipe that is on the Malfy website, which is the Wheel of Lemon. So, so take a sip and see if this seems familiar, if you've actually had this one with me before. Seem familiar?
The only thing I'm going off of is the bottle, because you have shown me so many gins that the bottle doesn't necessarily look familiar.
Okay.
And the flavor, albeit I do like it, it doesn't taste familiar to me.
Okay, so maybe this is a new one for you. So this is great, because these would both be 2 new gins for you. So this gin is, it's actually at the Torino Distillate, which is... it's in a little city just outside of Turin, Italy, which is where the 2006 Winter Olympics were. You would know it also as the home of Juventus in Serie A.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep. So it's sort of like the North Italy, kind of to the west part of the country. As I mentioned, they do these 4 gins. This distillery, actually, though, they do production for a lot of third parties and like private labels. But Malfy is one of the private labels that they do. And I've had this gin, and then I've also had their like regular non-infused, just their straight gin, which is in like a light blue bottle.
Okay.
I have not tried the grapefruit or the orange ones yet.
I was going to say, those both sound very spring, summer-esque, especially the grapefruit, because I know that some other gyms that we've had here local to Grand Rapids, there are some infused gins that I think go really good with the grapefruit peel. And,
oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about with Eastern Kill.
Yeah, Eastern Kill. They're barrel finished. That's their, they put the little grapefruit peel in with their, like, house gin and tonic.
Yeah. I don't know if that'd be overkill to have extra grapefruit on top of infused grapefruit, but...
I don't know. I mean, I put the lemon in on top of this lemon gin, and I think it goes well with it. True. And I also go with the citrus. Now, if you're on the website looking at... They describe the best way to make this gin and tonic would actually be with the Mediterranean Fever Tree tonic. And then this little wheel of a lemon. So, but this is just one of my, like I said, just go-tos in the spring, summer. I think it's just great. And I am looking forward to trying a couple of their other ones. And their regular gin is the first one. So it's kind of funny how I got introduced to this one.
Did you like the first regular gin?
Yeah, I really liked it. And I went to the store to get it, and I just looked at Malfy. And I didn't realize that they had like 4 different versions of it. And they only had this lemon one in, but I thought it was what I had before. And I grabbed it. Yeah. And then the first time I had it, I was like, wait, this is not what I had last time. And then I realized that they had a couple of different gins the next time I was at the store.
You know, as soon as I hear Malfy, I think of a Malfy Coast, which... Yes. Is there any similarity to that?
Yes, that's why they do it. They want to, emphasize the Malfy Coast. And, you know, they use a lot of, like, in their orange one, they use some blood oranges and like from Sicily, I believe, and then like Italian oranges that are up in that area. They try to use a lot of like local botanicals that they can.
Yeah, could you imagine use fresh fruit off the vines of Italy with their fresh gin? That sounds pretty heavenly.
That would be completely amazing. So.
Yeah. You know, I like it a lot. And you know what? I was going to ask you because you mentioned it. The wheel of lemon.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there is a difference as to why you maybe have a wheel of lemon versus like a wedge. Because I've always assumed that the wedge is just like the easiest thing to squeeze and just drop in. But
that I don't know. I was just following their recipe today. Okay. So yeah. I mean, usually like I wouldn't even put like the lemons in this drink that we're having. Normally I don't put anything in it. I just like squeeze it in. I just kind of like mine in that fashion. But yeah, this is the first of the Italian gins that we'll try. I was doing a little bit of homework this week getting ready for the episode. There's actually a number of other gins from Italy that I was unaware of, and I'm looking forward to going out and trying to check some of those out. So,
and you know what? I've totally forgot to ask my dad where we are actually from in Italy, because he always says it. So the closest I can think of from my dad's side of the family. So my dad's side of the family is predominantly Irish and Italian. He's pretty much split right down the middle, 50-50. My mom is predominantly German/Polish. Well, actually, funny story. So have you heard of the 23andMe? When you take those DNA tests?
Yes, I am actually awaiting results. My mom got me that for Christmas. Yes.
So what we did, and this was a couple of years ago, and this is what someone told me. So if you want the best results, someone told me you have to get 3 generational lines of the same side. So it would be yourself, your mom, and if possible, your grandma. So I was able to do that with myself, my mom and her mom and grandpa. And, my grandpa always thought he was, pretty much German blood through and through.
Sure.
He gets the results back and he's like 50% Polish, and he absolutely refuses the results, which I think's hilarious, but...
Well, it could also be that he had family members who immigrated from Poland to Germany.
Oh, yeah.
He grows up thinking they're German, but I mean, that's gonna happen. Yeah, I'm awaiting. I'm basically a mutt. I'm like Western Europe rolled up into a ball. The Italian part is also from my dad's side.
Yeah.
And I do know that they're from Lucca. Actually, my great-great-grandmother, her parents are the ones who immigrated. And until I was 5, I lived under her. And in hindsight, like, I really wish she would have taught me Italian. But when her parents moved and they had their kids, like, they didn't want them speaking Italian. They wanted them to assimilate. And so they, like, weren't really allowed to speak it outside of the house. And so she never, like, taught me any. So that's a huge bummer.
To kind of keep talking about my dad. So his dad, my grandpa, who's now passed away, probably good 7-8 years. His father came on the boat over to America, and their relationship apparently was so bad that when my grandpa enlisted into the war, my actual last name isn't Pagori.
No?
Did I ever tell you this?
Is it Smith?
No. No. It's now my last name is spelled Piegore, where it was originally Pagari with an A instead of an O. And when he enlisted in the army, my dad told me this, and I think I even have a paper document showing like a birth certificate type name, but when he enlisted in the army, they misspelled it. And because he disliked his father so much, he didn't care about his last name.
Oh, wow.
And he changed the official last name to Pagori because of the enlisting in the army, which is quite incredible. But I also think that it rolls off the tongue a lot more, the Piegore versus the Piegere. I mean, that doesn't sound very good. But yeah, I always found that interesting. But the last name that my dad's family predominantly, I think, would have a base out of is Ginocchio.
Okay.
And they actually have a family crest, because we did this a long time ago when we were searching for all this kind of stuff, and I truly forget what our family crest looks like, but I still couldn't even tell you where we're from. Not that a Ginocchio is a very common or uncommon last name there.
Yeah, mine, like I said, my relatives came out of Lucca, Italy. They were the Lucchese's and the Marquis. Marquis is the family name that I'm from. I've got definitely in Chicago.
Sounds like a gang.
A gang? No,
the east side and the west side.
Actually, you go to Lucca and you go like downtown. They have a walled. It's a city about the size of Kalamazoo, Michigan. So it's probably around 80,000 people, like in the city.
That seems pretty big.
It's good size. Yeah. But there is a wall around like the city center. It's there's only 4 entryways through this wall. The wall's huge. You could drive a car like around the top of it.
Really?
You can get up there and like walk all around, the old walled city. It was built in, I think, the 1500s. So the wall is older than our country in terms of like the founding of the United States of America. So it's kind of crazy. But you go into the city center, and there are these jewelry stores, and they're all run by the Marquis and the Lucchese's.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I go visit there, and I'm like, why did they leave? I love it here.
Right.
Like, why did they leave? Now, I'm glad they did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing the podcast right now. I wouldn't be here. But I go back, and I'm just like, I've been pretty fortunate. I've gotten to travel to a couple different places, like, in my life. But there was the first time I went, and I was like, oh, I could, like, spend half a year here. Like, I could live here part-time.
Yeah, no, you said it right, because when I went, even the first time, I went in high school as a freshman, so I was, I think, 14 years old at the time, and, I just wasn't mature enough to fully understand just, like, the timeline of how old certain things are in Italy. Coming back now at this age, you just maybe have hopefully a better appreciation for, artifacts and everything that has stood the test of time for over 2,000 years. And it's crazy to think that America is so young of a country that if you go into Europe, you literally have standing statues and buildings and anything that has literally stood the test of time.
They're 2,000 years old. You go around a corner and there's like...
And it's in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
They don't touch it. Yeah. And they... so when we were there, we got really, really lucky because is it the railway system that's in Rome, the underground train system.
Okay.
it was the most efficient way to travel. We paid maybe 15 euros for like 2 to 3 days, and we could use it unlimited. And I literally saved probably 3 to 5 miles walking a day, which was 100% worth it, because especially in Rome, it is the most densely populated tourist area. And as much as you enjoy walking through it, you don't want to see the same stuff. But yeah, when I was there, they were actually looking to expand their railway system into a couple other cities that aren't as nearly getting as much, let's say, attention, and they have to be super careful when essentially digging up new tunnels, because they could literally hit into 2,000-year-old buildings and statues, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, that place is just amazing. So
yeah.
So how about we do a round of gin trivia?
Let's do it.
Okay. The question for you, and this is, I'll give you a hint. It is a non-Italian gin. Okay. What brand of gin shares its name with the nickname of a group of royal guards?
What gin shares the nickname of a group of royal guards?
Yep.
Well, the only royal guards I can think of are the ones in England, right? The British royal guards. What are they called? The red.
I'm staring at the answer, so you need to guess.
Is it anything with red?
Is red in the name? Are you asking?
Is it anything similar to a color? Is there a color involved?
I believe the uniforms, maybe on the bottle, are red, but red is not part of the name that we're looking for.
Is it the? I might just take a random guess.
Go ahead. I would have never guessed this.
So, the marching red. I don't know.
Have you seen a gin called the Marching Red? Just out of curiosity.
No, but you never know. There's a lot out there.
Okay, no, Beef Eater, actually.
What the heck is that? I was so off.
I would not have guessed that either.
That's with a group? Beef
I guess
Eater?
There's a group of royal guards called Beef Eater.
Well, I would like to know where the Beef Eaters are at so I can meet them.
Okay, well, I will make a note to follow up on that.
And now I have to know if they eat beef or not, because if they don't eat beef and they're called the Beef Eaters, then they're liars.
All right, I will check on that. And I do have a follow-up from trivia from episode 1. So, episode 1, when Jerry was here, there was a question about the gin craze of 1751. And we just didn't know, what this gin craze was.
That was a crazy year, Brian.
Well, it was more than a year. So,
okay.
But I went and looked it up. And the gin craze, it was in the 1700s in England. What sort of led to it was in the late 1600s. There's conflict between England and France. So England started passing a number of laws to restrict brandy imports from France.
Okay.
And then also began to encourage domestic gin production. So they're like, hey, let's not buy brandy from France and give them money. Let's just buy our own stuff. Well, gin consumption starts to increase. And because one, it's being encouraged. And then two, there's starting to be more money. There's food prices are dropping. The average person has more money. And the other issue, though, was English gin, the distilled English gin, was definitely stronger than the brandy. So people are not just drinking, sounds like they're just getting lit. So now they're starting to get worried about the gin craze. Gin is starting to take on the name of Mother's Ruin.
It's ruining lives, relationships, friendships.
Yes. So they start passing laws, and one was the Gin Act of 1736. So that was going to tax retail sales and required an annual license if you wanted to sell gin.
And you can only consume one bottle per day, right?
No, I didn't say that. But this is a complete major fail. It is the equivalent of prohibition in the U.S. Only 2 licenses, from what I could research, were even bought. Everything just goes underground, right? Everything just becomes illegal.
Wow.
And then since people are just making it, it's less reliable. So now it's also becoming poisonous, right? So it's just bad. So then in 1751, which was the answer from last time, the Gin Act of 1751, they reduced that annual license fee. They tried to encourage respectable gin selling, and over time, gin consumption started to drop. Although there is a theory that this was actually due to grain prices started to go up, so people could make more money actually turning grain into food rather than distilling it to make spirits. So, but that was the gin craze that came up in episode 1. So, and I will check on Beefeaters, and so you'll have to listen to episode 3.
Yeah, I gotta know
to find out
who those
who the Beefeaters are.
And I always imagine myself, if you were to be a part of some sort of, call it, prohibition back in the day, do you think yourself at your current age, knowing that something was prohibited, do you think that you would try to sell, illegally, or you would purchase illegally if you were in that world?
I mean, I think it would depend on what it was. Like, cocaine's still illegal. I wouldn't go out trying to sell cocaine right now.
Yeah,
but
that's very true.
But gin, but you're talking about something that, basically sort of was legal, then they started to try to restrict it, and much like Prohibition here.
Yeah.
Could I see myself, running gin across the border? Maybe, especially now at this age.
I can see you doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be, that could be a fun little adventure. Yeah. So, but, yeah. So, I will go and get things ready for round 2. Any other thoughts on this Malfy Lemon Gin before we wrap up segment 1?
No, and you know what? It may be hard to tell because there's an actual lemon wedge in it, but it does have a really strong, but just good lemon flavor to it. So I don't know if that's the actual gin itself or if that's, the pairing of a lemon on top of it.
I think it's that, and then also the citrus tonic.
It's definitely,
right. Yeah, it's kind of it's a kind of a trifecta, but it's a super tasty, enjoyable beverage. And we'll leave it at that, and we'll be back for round 2 in just a second. We are back, and it is time for our second gin. This is actually another gin from northern Italy. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information on it, Sean. And I feel like I am letting down the 3 listeners of the podcast. But it is called Piedmonte Gin. It is a gin that my mom actually got for me at a store down in Chicago. And it's a store where they sell high quality, artisanal products. You can go in, you can sample whiskeys and gins and vodkas and things of this nature and try them. I've been to another store that they have. It's through a company called Bombas. I've been to their store in Wisconsin. So I thought on the bottle it gave me just a little bit more information, but unfortunately it didn't. The company, there's a distillery that helps to import the gin. I actually chatted with them earlier this week just to see if they could get some information from me. They couldn't get a whole lot, but he did send me a bit of information this week. So on the bottle, as you see, it's just written on there, Piedmonte Gin. When they imported it, it was actually called Lauren's Gin. So, and it comes from a
past lover.
No, it comes from a distillery somewhere in South Tyrol, Italy, which is also in northern Italy, but it's more sort of to the northeast. It's a little bit closer to Austria. And in finding a couple of ads online for this Lauren's Gin, it ends up that it's actually produced from bread wheat. Sounds like there's some juniper, obviously, citrus and coriander in it. There is a legend that there was a dwarf named Lauren who was king of the Rose Garden Mountains, which is situated near Bolzano, Italy, which is right in this part of Italy. And these mountains would bloom during sunrise and sunset, and it gave it this Italian glow. And so this gin is supposed to kind of represent things from that region. But unfortunately, I don't know specifically what distillery. I went and looked it up. There's a couple of actually different distilleries in that region, and I couldn't find any that would say that they were making this. But it could be found in these Bombas stores. So there's, like I said, Chicago, Madison. They also have stores in Plano, Texas, Maplewood, Missouri, Brookline, Massachusetts, New York City.
Oh, wow. It's everywhere.
Yeah, Crestview Hills, Kentucky. Wesley Chapel, Florida, Charleston, South Carolina, Cary, North Carolina.
Is that a chain?
Yeah, there's a chain. They're actually international, and they have like all different sorts of things there. But if you're there, this gin would be called either Piedmonte, which is what it was called at the store where my mom got it, or in other places it would be called Lauren's Gin. I think it's more of kind of your classical London Dry. That's sort of the taste I get. So you had a chance to try it. I made this with the Piedmont gin, Mediterranean fever tree tonic, and then lime.
Yeah. The dry with the London Dry piece, it makes sense. And I feel like, is that because it's the juniper? Is that where that flavor's coming from?
Well, all gins have juniper.
Oh, really?
But yes, this would be definitely more juniper forward. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I do prefer the name Lauren's Gin actually more. Knowing that it is a dwarf, probably spelled Loren and not LA, but you never know.
No, it was LA.
LAU?
LAU, yeah. If I remember from the picture that they had texted me of they sent me like the shipping label. Like they were super friendly
really?
and helpful. Yeah, they were just like, sorry, I just can't like chase it down to the source. But
how long did it take you for them to get back to you?
Like a day. Like he worked on it for a bit and he sent me a picture of the label. Like he didn't like blow me off or anything. I thought for sure he was like, hey, why can I ask? Did you want to buy some? And I was like, no, actually, I'm like starting this podcast about gin and I'm doing a thing on Italian gins and I just wanted to kind of highlight this one. And he's like, well, give me your number and let me see what I can find out.
We have free press, right? Might as well share all the information.
So, but and then actually at this store, myself at their store in Madison, I bought a couple of other gins from this Yahara Bay distillers who do, so they distilled a gin there that I bought, and then they also imported this other gin, Alpine something or other, that's really good. So
when you're in a store like that and you can taste test individual gins, is there a way that they categorize the types of gins based off of like flavor profile? So when you were there, is it like, 4 main categories, or like how do they try to, aisle them out if possible?
So actually the store that I've been at in Madison, they only had like 2 or 3 gins available at the time. It's actually much more like whiskey, scotch, heavy, and they've got a lot. In fact, I got
that makes sense.
On another trip I had there, I got this really good whiskey from Wales.
That sounds
Dragon good. Something. It's a really good sipper. So, but this gin, is from Italy, and so I just wanted to kind of give us another Italian gin to try out. Definitely more London Dry, but unfortunately, like I said, I just couldn't get too much more information on it. I sort of hate doing one of these gins that it's not readily or easily available for folks, but I just thought it was a tasty one.
No, I like it a lot. And so if someone were to buy this, is this something that you could just buy online? Or do you have to go to one of these chain places and kind of buy it from them?
No, you might be able to buy it online. I think you would just have to check. Like if you're in a state that doesn't have one of those stores, I think you may just have to check to make sure that they can ship it to your state. But I think you could.
That makes sense.
I think you might be able to order it directly from them. Because like I said, when I talked to them, they were trying to, do you want to buy something? And I was like, no, I'm good right now. So but.
I just want information. Thank you.
Nice. So I had talked about, as we did in episode 1 with Jared, I also brought samples of just the gins both straight. So if you want to do that, just to get more just the straight gin flavor, we can do that. Looks like you're starting with the Malfy.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, is it one of each?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I'd try it
we'll do the Malfy. Yeah.
All right. So this, again, is the...
Oh, it smells very lemony.
Yes. It's infused with it.
It kind of smells like limoncello.
Oh. Yeah, I could definitely see
wow.
that.
That is really lemony.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's tasty.
Holy smokes.
I mean, you could probably just put that on ice if you wanted to.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe because it's infused, but now I'm really curious what their other flavors taste like. We got to do a whole just Malfy lineup next time.
Yeah, maybe we could do that sometime.
Yeah.
We could do the...
She said there's 3 different flavors?
There's 4 if you count just like their straight gin.
The straight? Okay. Yeah, 4 drinks within an hour and a half time frame. I should
We'll
be good.
do it
right?
over a Saturday afternoon or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right.
I like that.
and then we can try, and then the Piedmont, this will be just kind of...
This is probably straight gin, huh?
Well, it'll be more like you had talked about. It'll be just, I think, more juniper forward.
See, this smell I really like. This is like my classic gin smell that I really appreciate. Some people call it pine needles.
Yeah. So I found this one to go down smoother than the Malfy.
Absolutely.
Like, that was really nice and smooth.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. If I was drinking them straight, just with nothing else, I would take the Piedmont.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot.
So, well, we can do another round of gin trivia, but before we get to that, real quick, I meant to ask you something in the first segment that I forgot, but when we were talking about Juventus...
Oh, I was going to say something too.
Oh, well, you can go ahead, and then I'll bring up what I was going to bring up.
Well, I was going to say, so Brian and I are pretty big European soccer fans, and I've truly never been to any sort of, big, European football soccer event outside of the U.S., where really it's treated as like, the sport and the only sport. And when we were in Rome, I didn't even think twice that Rome's team was Roma. And when we were down there in one of the main parts of Rome, there was this huge, huge store of theirs. It was like a 2-story store, and it was popping. And I've never seen a 2-story soccer loving sports store that was only for that sport. Because here in the U.S., that's like something I'll just never see, most likely. And it was amazing. My brother actually bought a really sweet, like a dark, deep blue jacket that they had. I mean, their colors, it's like a deep red and a blue.
Yeah, my sister got
They are
a
the
Roma
sharpest colors.
sweatshirt when we were there.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to spend, the euros for it, but if any other given day, I would have 100% put money on just kind of one of their sweatsuits, because they have some of the best tracksuits ever.
Yeah, when I was there, I went with their crosstown rival Lazio. I got a Puma zip-up.
I think I saw people with Lazio. I did see a lot of people with Roma jerseys, actually.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I went to, on my first trip to Lucca, I did go to 2 games. It was thrilling. Both ended in 0-0 tie. The first one was the local team, Lucchese. They were Serie C when I was there, like level 2. Like, they were kind of down the ranks.
Wait, so there's no Serie B?
No, there is. There's
Serie A, B, C. Okay.
Yeah. So they were down in C. The crowd went insane. Like, they were pissed that it was a tie. They were like screaming at the owner. The players like literally walk into this underground tunnel to get off the field.
Really?
So they don't even have to deal with like the people screaming at them. Then the following week, Lucchese's on the road. Fiorentina had gotten relegated the year before, not due to poor play, but like some financial shenanigans.
Did you hear what happened to Juventus?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's going to be another game there. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll go to this one. So I go, and the reason it's being played in Lucca is they were playing this little town, like up in the mountains, that didn't have a big stadium, and Fiorentina has a big following, and they're like, well, Lucchese's gone, play in Lucca. It's a bigger stadium.
Wasn't Fiorentina, they were a Serie A.
And they are
before.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just for context, so European soccer, there's many different leagues across the countries, and Serie A is the highest level of soccer within that league. So you have your typical teams like Juventus, Roma, Fiorentina, Napoli, AC Milan,
Inter Milan,
and those are worldwide teams that have the most recognizable players and jerseys.
Yeah. So the stadium's packed at this game. Again, it goes 0-0. But towards the end of the game, all of a sudden I'm like watching, and there's like a police helicopter flying overhead. And I'm like, well, this is weird. And we're leaving the stadium, come outside, there's cops all around the stadium in riot gear. And they are starting to like, close ranks. Like, they're not going to let people through.
So, Polizia. I saw a lot of those cars in Rome.
So I did what I think any smart person would do who didn't have their passport on them. I immediately found as many women and children as I could, and I walked out with them, and I literally just got through as, like, the guards, like, locked arms, didn't let people out, and I was like, what is going on? I got home that night, and what I found out is the fans from Florence, when they were waiting for the train in Florence, jacked up train station and like knocked windows out of a train car, so the authorities in Lucca were like, you are not doing this to our town. And so my understanding is they marched them to the train station and basically like surrounded them until they got onto the train and got out of town.
Oh my God.
And that was the whole thing. Yeah, it was crazy.
So quick side, I got two side stories. And one is just more of, this is someone that you need to meet. So I do coach soccer on the side here. I coach a local club here in Grand Rapids. And one of the coaches that I have grown really close with, his name is David. And he's from the Newcastle area in England. And he has stories from when over there, when he goes to these, not the tier 1, European Premier League, EPL, not even the championship. He's talking the 3 and 4th leagues where you have like groups called Millwall, and he said their stadium is set up almost like a castle where the away team is literally on like a 10-foot cement pillar above the other home fans so that A, they can't throw things at them, B, they can't get to them even if they tried, and C, once you leave the grounds when the game is done, they have police in a a uniform line, like 3 lines.
I believe it's literally the Beefeaters.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that would make total sense. But literally, he said, if you are caught on the wrong side of that police line, he's like, you can seriously get beat up because of these Millwall fans are true Green Street hooligan type people.
Yeah, it's a different level of fandom, like over there.
Yeah.
Like they're way more intense than what we're used to here in the U.S. But I think it's my reasoning. I think is that we just have so many different sports you can get behind.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. In a lot of these countries, it's like soccer and one other sport, and like that's what they want
for sure.
So, real quick, my thing I just wanted to ask you when we were talking about Juventus, you had talked me into doing fantasy football this year for EPL, and I have no
European fantasy football,
fantasy
soccer,
football, but EPL, and English Premier League. Sorry, And obviously, I had no idea what I was doing. Does it upset you that halfway through the year I'm ahead of you?
Don't bring this up.
Oh, okay, I just...
So, you know what? It's funny because if you missed 1 or 2 weeks where, like, you're busy and you forget to set up your lineup, just like any other fantasy league, you can kind of become, top 3 and go into, like, the bottom 5.
Yeah.
So, I was busy. Not that's an excuse. But as soon as one player gets injured and it's on your team and you start them, it just ruins the entire thing. So I am happy that you were on top, but I'm
not on top, but I'm... According to you,
close.
I'm sitting in the money, though.
You are sitting in the money. So. But let me tell you, I got a couple of players that I have bought
I think the season's not even half over, right?
It's not, no.
Or barely.
It's
week 22 and there's 40, so...
Yeah, well, because the World Cup...
38.
Yeah, because the World Cup was during the winter this year, we pretty much have pushed the season like a good month and a half in, which means a lot of the teams are going to play like every week and a half, 2 games, which is going to be very interesting, but yeah.
So, great. Okay, let's try this gin trivia. We'll see if I can guess correct today.
Yeah, so it's my turn to ask the question. So, the question is, and you have literally a 50-50 chance.
Yes,
so
I like those odds.
Good luck. Which of these is a common slang term for a bar or saloon? Gin farm or gin mill?
Gin mill.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
You would be correct. It is gin mill. And what? Gin mill sounds so much better than gin farm. Slang term.
It'd be more like let's go to the juniper farm, I feel.
Oh, yeah. That would work. Yeah.
So, awesome. Okay. Let us move on to the final segment of the show, but it's my personal favorite. Off the Beaten Path. And you mentioned that you wanted to go first. So what is your selection for this episode's Off the Beaten Path?
So this is funny because you told me a little while ago what this part was, and I was trying to think of anything, popular to share that no one really knows nowadays, and that's kind of sometimes difficult because everything gets blasted within an amount of like hours once your show is good. So I kind of went backwards in time, not on purpose. So I was scrolling through the 6 different, subscription devices I have on my TV, and I was on HBO Go or HBO Max, whichever one it is nowadays. And let me ask you a question. Are you a huge fan of Robin Hood? As in the story, the era, the character, the fighting, and anything.
I don't know that I would be a huge fan, but I would say this. Two big things from my childhood would be the Bugs Bunny spoof of Robin Hood.
Oh, that one's amazing. That is amazing.
And then I saw I don't know if it's the original Robin Hood movie, but the one from way back when with Errol Flynn. That's just like a classic.
So you have taken my thunder slightly. So I want to bring this up because when I was on HBO Go, I really wanted to watch like an action movie. And it was on like a Saturday night recently. I just wanted to watch something that I've seen before that I just want to enjoy and absolutely do nothing. And I saw one of the Robin Hood films, which was the newest one with Tate Egerton, which...
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's okay. It kind of...
Isn't Jamie Foxx in that one as well?
And it kind of... that film tries to create some sort of, It kind of keeps to the storyline, but it kind of implements almost like newer technology into that age of the Renaissance.
They wanted to jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah, and as much as I don't mind that, when I was scrolling through it, I was like, oh, Robin Hood. Let me tell you, when I was a kid, I have an older brother, and my brother and I, we used to watch the Disney Robin Hood, which is literally made up of animals.
That was great too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And we used to watch that probably like...
The cartoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Disney film, probably 6 times a year on average. I kid you not, VHS. And I was so curious. I was like, okay, let's see which ones they have. And they had the 1938 Errol Flynn Robin Hood, which, if anyone is listening, it is by far the best Robin Hood of the 9 or 10 they've made. And I was so sure of myself that I had to Google it and say, best Robin Hoods ever made. And lo and behold, it is on the number 1. I mean, this is one website, but then I Google it. Don't know if this is true either. It has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And Rotten Tomatoes is more of I think it's more of a fan, like a personal person you and me like, understanding of how great a movie is. So I try to trust, or I tend to trust Rotten Tomatoes on the accuracy of a film being good. And if you haven't seen it, it's not in black and white, or maybe it used to be, but there is...
No, I don't think so. I think it was in... the original was in color.
There is a color version.
I mean, the versions I've seen have been color.
There is a colored version, and let me tell you, Brian, so when I was younger, I actually watched that version.
No, it's definitely color, because when I was a kid watching it, they didn't have the technology yet to make black and white color. So it's a color, yeah.
So when I was younger, when you had a VHS, you could record a show on the VHS.
Yeah, I know.
And rewind it back and replay it. Yeah, I'm telling you. So my dad recorded the Errol Flynn Robin Hood on TV, and I literally watched that VHS tape so much that it probably broke. And to see that on HBO Go, it felt like I was like a 10-year-old kid again. And I watched it, and maybe because it was a bit nostalgia, but it still holds to the test of time as still the best Robin Hood, because the action, because there's no special effects back then.
No, it was whatever they could get away with, they were getting away with.
Yeah, so Errol Flynn, I think my dad even told me this, and I did a little research, was he actually learned, I think, fencing specifically for this movie. And you can honestly tell how quick he's making these movements in this movie. And it is honestly really, really cool action. And the dialogue isn't cheesy. It's right on par for the course of the classical story of Robin Hood. It has every part of the movie you want. It has Little John. It has the Sheriff of Nottingham. It has King Richard. It has everything. And the best part is the music is still amazing. And I am just hoping one day that they remaster the film so that you get more of the volume kind of in the foreground. Because you know how those old school movies just kind of sound like they're farther away because they didn't have any mics mic'd up to the people. I just hope one day that they can kind of reimagine it or, remaster it, because I would 100% buy it. So I'm going backwards in time to say that if you haven't seen this movie, I think it is by far the best Robin Hood. And it has really cool, completely real, non-CGI'd action. And you can actually see these guys who have practiced, months on end are like fencing, but they're smacking each other with these, swords as hard as they can. And I mean, I felt like a little kid when I was watching it.
No, I have
back
seen
the best of memories.
I've seen that movie. It's very entertaining. And
it's so good.
Nice pick. Good job on that.
Thank you.
Nice. My pick for this week is also a movie. What I went with is I decided to stick to our Italian theme. Okay. So I went and picked one of my definitely all-time favorite foreign films, but one of just probably it's in my top 10 or 15 just films in general.
So it's not The Italian Job.
No, it's not The Italian Job.
Which is a great film.
It is from 1988. It is called Cinema Paradiso.
I heard of it.
Yep, it came out like the end of 88. It actually won the Oscar in that following March then in 89 for Best Foreign Film. It is set in Sicily, post-World War II, and it's sort of a coming-of-age story of this kid who is growing up in the small town in Sicily, and he's sort of, I think, is initially an annoyance and then befriends kind of the projectionist at the theater. And originally this theater is owned by the local priest in town. Oh. And so they bring these movies in, but the priest doesn't want to show any public displays of affection. So the projectionist has to, if there's going to be a kiss, he has to splice out the kiss in the film so they can show it. But then he has to add it back in when he ships then this film to the next town.
Okay.
And like, but and then it's about this boy who then like grows up in this town, and I don't want to give too much away, but it shows him from a little boy through adulthood.
Really?
He ends up becoming a movie director, and it's just a very sweet. It is like if you really enjoy movies. Like just going to movies, enjoying movies. This film is kind of like a tip of the cap to just the, I think, romance and enjoyment of movies. I love the little kid who plays, I think his name's Toto, if I remember, as a young boy. He's just, he's hilarious and just super cute and funny. But the story is just really well done. And
is it in English or is it in?
No, it's in Italian.
Okay.
Yep.
How did you watch
subtitled?
This? Or when did you watch this?
A couple years after it came out on VHS.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You were watching Italian VHS movies back in the day?
Yes. Or wait, let me think for a second. Maybe when I saw it, maybe it was a few years after that, because maybe I actually saw it on DVD, and that would have been in the 90s then, probably. But I saw it I had heard good things about it and, finally had a chance to catch it. And it's just really well done. Now, one word of warning. There is a director's cut out there that makes it longer. It's awful. It ruins the movie. It's terrible. Yeah.
Isn't it usually the opposite?
I think sometimes the director's cut adds more and it makes it maybe sometimes more interesting. Yeah. This did not work for this movie. So if you're interested in seeing just a really just well done, good film, kind of coming of age story, I'm just afraid I would give too much away because I could really talk about it for a bit. But it's really enjoyable. But do not watch the director's cut. Just watch the original 1988 version.
Now that you mention like a movie that is just that says cinematography at its best. Have you seen a film recently that you could kind of say that again? Like, this is like a classic cinematography at its best.
Well, I wouldn't say the cinematography.
Like, storyline is there. It doesn't require, action or like an intense, crazy storyline. It's just a story that is just beautifully written with the character that is invested in, because they don't really make a whole lot of movies like that anymore.
Unfortunately, I don't think you get as many kind of like character driven. I'm trying to think if I've seen something recently.
I asked that because there was a interview done by Matt Damon that wasn't it was probably a little bit dated now, but he was describing what kind of films directors can make nowadays, because that since you no longer can go to the movies, everything is streamed and everything is here. You no longer make half the amount back on DVD purchases. So he said movies like Good Will Hunting, where it's just like a really good storyline of a person kind of going through whatever they are and hopefully coming out in the end and learning something, and it's kind of a beautiful story of that person and their journey, whether it's him at his adolescence as a young adult, or this is kind of from beginning to end. But he said you just can't make films like that anymore because it doesn't captivate an audience to stream it at home, or they no longer can sell a DVD where people don't buy it, so you can't make money off of films like that anymore.
That could be true. I mean, I don't know for sure. Like, I don't know the financial back end of it. I think they still probably tell a lot of stories that way. I think the more difficult thing, in my opinion, is with streaming services, I think series have become the more popular way to tell stories, because I think writers and directors get more time to develop the characters, kind of tell a longer story.
That is 100% true, I think.
That's just sort of, what I think. But I think you can still just, like, I went and saw, I wouldn't say it's a coming of age story or anything like that, but I saw... it's nominated for Best Picture. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
My brother said that was amazing. I haven't.
It's great. Like, go check it out. But it's a really just different film. Yeah. Like, it's really just well done. Good movie.
I think that lady won an award.
She's recently up for Best Actress. Yeah, she probably won a Golden Globe, I think. So, yeah.
No, I was told that movie's amazing.
Hey, real quick, I know we're wrapping up, and thank you very much for joining us. But you had mentioned you are a soccer coach. Did you want to put a quick plug in for your club? Your local club.
What I think? Yeah, absolutely. So
you have 10 seconds. Just kidding.
The local club that I am a part of, it's just called Rapids FC, and
based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we are located.
Based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We primary colors are black and white, but it used to be more of like a forest green, which is a lot of people know us from. But I mean, we are one of, let's just say, 4 or 5 kind of major clubs in the area. I've had a soccer background my entire life, and, coming out of college, I didn't want to necessarily lose that background, so I felt that I had, something to give back to, younger kids. So I now coach 2 young teams of U13 and U12, U13, U14-year-old boys, which is an absolute blast, but it is different to be on the opposite side from when you were a player from now when you're a coach. It's interesting to see both sides of the conversations and, the emails and everything that goes into it. But no, Rapids FC, it's a small club, but I do love the players and the parents that I work with.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to make sure you plug them. I know how much you enjoy doing that. So, well, thank you very much. This has been episode 2 of Botanical Trails about Italian gins, and we will look forward to seeing you next time for episode 3. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the Botanical Trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.